Where am I going? Dave, I've got trivia. I could give it to you or to our next guest. So, what direction you want to go?
It's up to you, Mikey Dobbs. I am notoriously bad at trivia, but I'm always willing to try.
Well, I truly have gone to the bottom depths of the internet to find 10 questions for ATL on Fire Trivia.
That's really bad.
But I'm going to try to be quick with it. Let's not drag it out here.
All right. First of all, what does the end of the internet look like, Mikey Dobbs?
It's a scary place. I think they call it the tour or something like that.
Is it the Orlando website?
Yes.
Sorry, Orlando fans. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding about that.
I'm sure there's some lovely people in Orlando. I just haven't met them. Dave, the largest attendance of a soccer game in a stadium was more or less than 200,000 people.
The largest attendance ever?
Ever. That was checked in a stadium that they entered into the stadium above or below 200,000.
Somewhere in the back of my head, I have it. There was one time a game that was like 204,000, either in South America or Mexico somewhere.
Yeah,
I'm going to go with that there's been a game higher than that.
So you're wrong, and that was kind of a mean question the way I worded it, but it was just below. Apparently 199,854 fans flocked to watch Brazil versus Uruguay in the 1950 World Cup.
All right, well.
At the Maracana Stadium.
That was close.
Yeah. The world record for juggling a soccer ball is how many hours? I mean, this is kind of cool for kids out there listening who are trying to achieve great juggling feats. I think the lesson from the answer that's forthcoming here is that it's just not worth it. Focus on other skills.
I feel like, so a ridiculous amount of time where you would have to get tired would be something like 8 to 9. But if it's a real world record, it's got to be in the 13, 15, 17. I'm going to go really high. I'm going to go with 17.
I think that's a reasonable guess. It's like all Guinness World Book records. It's something crazy. 30 hours straight. A young Iranian footballer set the record.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So there's that. All right. So do you remember the soccer balls that we grew up with that had the checkered panels on it? So the classic kind of black and white soccer ball that had, I guess it's a pentagon, 5 sides. I think there's other.
Yeah.
How many panels are on that soccer ball? Because there's been a lot of different sewing patches on balls where it's evolved, but that was kind of the classic one for years. That was actually invented, I think, in the late 60s, which was pretty revolutionary in terms of that design. How many panels?
I'm going to go with 32.
That's spot on. All right. The U.S. Soccer Federation was founded before or after 1900?
The U.S. Soccer Federation. I know the U.S. Soccer Federation is surprisingly old. So, you think of the U.S. didn't participate. Well, the World Cup didn't exist until like the 30s and 40s. And then, the U.S., there was the famous game where we beat England in 1950.
Yeah.
So you kind of think the U.S. Soccer Federation had to start back then, but I think it actually started well before that. But once again, you've put the date pretty close to where I would say, I'm going to say that it's after that.
You got it.
Yeah.
1913. I'm going to just let you win on that one because you're going with your gut.
Yeah.
We're moving along. All right. So the U.S. men's national team has had more or less than 35 coaches in its history from 1916 till today.
Well, I don't know. Going back in the early days, I feel like we had coaches for a long, long time.
35 is the benchmark, more or less.
35 seems like a lot. You know, over the last, certainly since 98, we've kind of had a coach on average probably every 2 to 4 years. Just give me a second.
Come on, Dave.
I'm gonna go with less.
Greg Berhalter was number 36. I'm cold.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you should put the number a little bit farther off from that, right?
I should, but okay, so were half of those coaches even U.S. coaches in terms of their citizenship? We're more than half.
Certainly all of the early ones were not. Well, citizen or...
I'm pretty sure I'm going with citizen.
Okay, I'm going to say
it was based on Wikipedia, whatever flag was by their name. Yeah. And I'm using the dual flags as like dual citizenship. So I'm adding them as U.S. citizens.
I'm still going to say that more have been U.S. citizens.
That's correct. 19 of them were U.S. citizens. Who was the first U.S. men's national team coach in 1916?
No idea.
Yeah. Thomas Cahill was his name. I think he was pretty integral in terms of getting us into a lot of the FIFA organizations as part of U.S. soccer. You know, in that era, we were pretty competitive too. So I think he's one of the godfathers of U.S. soccer. Never heard of him either. His name is Thomas Cahill. Look him up. Give him some kudos. All right. Erick Torres Padilla has the nickname El Cubo, or the Cube in English, because A, he's a master with the Rubik's Cube. B, he crashes the box, or El Cubo, as they say in Mexico, because because he has a square head, or D, El Cubo is his native city. Rubik's Cube.
I'm gonna go
crashes the box, D. Square head, D. Or native city.
D.
Native city? Mm-hmm. No, evidently it's because he has a square head. So that's El Cubo. That's the reason for his nickname. Jürgen Damm had 172 appearances and 13 goals during his last 5 years stint at this club before signing with Atlanta United.
I believe it was Monterrey.
That would be incorrect.
Wait. If it wasn't Monterrey, then it was Tigres.
All right. Well, I'm going to give it to you. It was Tigres. Good catch. All right. Now, this is the last and most important one. Is the word soccer and its origins are actually from where? The United States of America, Britain, Denmark, or Hungary? Soccer, which we get so much shit for.
I want to say that it's that actually was originally a British term.
You're damn straight it was, you Brits. So stop giving a shit that it's soccer because it's your fault. It's your word. Football Association is a conglomerate of games that evidently a bunch of university people in like Cambridge and all these universities created all these variations of these medieval games, which included like rugby and soccer. And Football Association was one of the games that they created, which is, football. And as they created Association Rugby, that was called Ruggers for short. And Association Football was actually shortened down to soccer. And believe it or not, in press, and there was a guy who did a study on this, he went back and looked at a lot of the newspaper publishings in the mid 50s to 60s to 70s in England, and soccer versus football natively in England was used interchangeably. So they would refer to it as soccer or football, pretty much 50-50.
That's what we do. So, we're just ahead of our time.
And so evidently it changed when U.S. soccer in the 80s and 70s to 1980 was the NASL, as you know, was kind of hitting its peak in 1980. And so all of a sudden the press in England started using soccer as kind of a negative terminology for the way that it was played in the US because of the NASL being, popular with Pelé. And so
they branded us.
They did with one of their words for soccer that they've been using for quite some time. Soccer. So there you go, Brits. It's your word, not ours. All right. Thanks for listening. If anybody actually made it this far in the podcast, we'd love to hear your feedback on Twitter at ATL On Fire. And tell your friends to subscribe. We are on iTunes, Google Play, and really any sort of podcast platform that you're